So these are submissions that we've had from other people that we've solicited.
A lot of them are listeners, and our listeners are really funny and shameful.
Okay, so I'm a feminist, but last week I was too tired to go to a women's rights seminar. So instead I stayed home and binged on Sex and the City and Entourage.
This is also a submission. I'm a feminist, but when I did a feminist studies course as part of my degree at uni, I slept with my male tutor, who then gave me one of his old essays to hand in as part of my coursework. It was a paper on Virginia Woolf's A Room of One's Own. Holy shit! I love our listeners.
I'm a feminist, but when I took my dog to dog obedience school, the trainer said, I find girl dogs are harder to train, but women are difficult, right? And I laughed because he was incredibly fucking hot.
I'm a feminist, but when the guitarist of my favorite band called me a sexy groupie and a typical girl after a gig, I snogged him anyway and gave him my number.
I'm a feminist, but last night at the Edinburgh Festival, I arranged to meet a friend in a private members bar for performers only, and he said, do you have a pass to get in? And I said, passes are for guys. Girls just walk in. They're grateful to have us. I might have submitted that one.
I'm a feminist, but I have a sexual fantasy about being an unpaid maid for a rich old man who I sexually pleasure in exchange for inheritance. I'm a businesswoman and have my own money. It's just a sexual fantasy. I submitted that. No, I didn't. Live from the Gilded Balloon at the Edinburgh Fringe, Spontaneity presents The Guilty Feminist with Sofie Hagen and Deborah Frances-White, and tonight's special guest, Desiree Burch, talking about taking up space. This is The Guilty Feminist, the podcast in which we explore our noble goals as 21st century feminists and the hypocrisies and insecurities which undermine them. Our topic, if you didn't hear, was taking up space.
Taking up space. How we can take up space as feminists. And we're interpreting that in any way we like.
We don't want to.
Any way we like. But we all agree that it is easy for women to take up less space. Give me a cheer if you feel you take up space. Like you take up as much space as you want to. Give me a cheer if you'd like to take up more space. Yeah. Great, okay. So, Sofie, what was your challenge?
I'm going to start by letting you know that I failed it. It's a bit of a touchy subject because whilst being feminist, we're also comedians. And then when you see a show by one of your peers that's kind of problematic, it's a bit weird because you don't want to be a dick to your friends, basically. And I saw a show at the Fringe and it said some things about fat people where I was like, that's not okay, and it was really problematic, and it wasn't accurate, and it wasn't true, it wasn't good, and I was sitting. The first half hour had been fucking amazing, and this performer was so good, and then the performer did this bit about how fat people are just complaining, and there's no reason to complain if you're fat. It's just something we've made up. And my heart fell, and it just felt like having been... Like, we trusted this performer. I'm just going to say him, fuck it. We trusted him. We knew. I'm trying to make that... We all knew. I've endured quite a lot of fat phobia and stuff, and I'm I really like my body, and I like how I look, but when it hits you off guard, And I got really sad, and I couldn't enjoy the rest of the show. I couldn't really enjoy the rest of my night. So I made myself the challenge of telling him, sitting him down, explaining, because it's probably just a misunderstanding. I totally get that. And then I just couldn't. I couldn't do it. And it was a mixture of me not wanting to, it's the Fringe, everyone's a bit stressed. It's the last thing he needs is for someone to come and tell him that there's a bit of his show that's not ideal. But then it was also, I started reading about other shows that I hadn't seen yet. And apparently that's a theme in a lot of people's shows this year. Is that fat phobia isn't a thing. And then I thought, well, then it's not him, then it's a bigger problem, and I won't necessarily fix anything by telling him. And so I kind of failed that part of my challenge, but I did decide Because I didn't want to make my show this year about being fat again, because I didn't want to be like, oh, this is her thing, that's the only thing she talks about. But then I was like, well, I guess apparently I have to, because they're still doing it.
When I went to see Sofie's show the other day, it's brilliant, by the way, she said at the end of it, this one reviewer said, this show was about body image. I never mentioned body image once. I'm just fat while I'm doing it. Yeah. That isn't the same. It's like, just doing
a brave show about body... What?
A brave show about body image. Once. Just like, she doesn't talk about being fat at all. At all. And it's just hilarious. It's just like, how brave.
Yeah. It's true. But it's not over. I don't know. Like, my last show was about body image, and apparently no one's listened. I just can't believe it's still there.
Are you suggesting you've done one show about body image and the whole world hasn't changed?
Yes.
That is outrageous. You did a Fringe show and you didn't change the opinion of the world?
The thing is,
crazy.
I've been yappering on about this for fucking years. And it's not just the fact that there's someone on stage saying these things. It's the fact that then everyone else is laughing. And then I see people recommending these people's shows on Facebook. And then I feel like, oh, is that what you've been thinking? Every time I've written fat phobia is a thing, someone shouted at me, we get lesser opportunities. And what have you just all been thinking? Oh yeah, right. It feels really like backstabbing. I think my challenge will be, I'll have to do that next year, like next year's show.
I think it is important because so many young women and girls are just constantly plagued with self-loathing about the shape of their body. No matter what the shape and size of their body, girls are suicidal over it. It's a really, really big problem that it gets into women's heads, that fat shaming is just like constant and consistent.
You're right that it's primarily women and girls, but it is also men. It's just, women's looks matter more. I'm doing air quotes. Matter more. Yeah, it's such a... I can't believe people don't know it's a problem. I can't believe people... Why haven't everyone seen my show? And why haven't they taken fucking notes and educated themselves? I mean, I feel so...
Okay, so next year you have your show. It's called Why Didn't You Listen to My First Fucking Show by Sofie Hagen. Do I have to say this shit again?
Please welcome to the stage, Deborah Frances-White.
I met a friend for coffee recently. She's a great comedian. Her name's Faye Tracy. You should check her out. She plays the trombone. She's great. And she's quite a petite person. And she said, I always feel so big because I'm always carrying this trombone. So everywhere I go, like I'm in everybody's way. And she said, people bump into me and then they get annoyed at me because they've bumped into my trombone. And I'm always trying to make myself smaller because, I have this trombone. And then after she told me this, I started going on public transport and thinking about how actually all of us kind of carry an instrument all of the time. Sometimes like I'm sitting on the tube and it's like guys just like, they'll sit down and they'll spread their legs out like they're a drum kit. Do you know what I mean? It's like, they're like, oh, I've got the snare over here and like the big one. And, some men put their thighs out on a bus like they're their children, right? Have you seen that? It's like, there's Jeffrey and Jemima. And they're just like, sit down, kids, make yourself happy. And it's like, they're three people. Like the person in the middle and both legs get their own seat. And I was just thinking about this idea. And so I decided to get on transport like I had a trombone, even though I didn't, to see if that would make a difference. And do you know what? It really does. If you step onto a train like this, then people just get out of your way. And I see women all the time, like petite women going, I could take up less space, I could take up even less space. Like she's got this tiny little piccolo. And it's just really interesting to me that whether women are large or small, they're always trying to make themselves smaller. So what I'm going to try and get women to do from now on is take some kind of brass instrument. Like, to start with, you're going to have to take an actual brass instrument. So I'm going to need you all to hire minimum a saxophone. What would be ideal is if you would take a trombone out of its case and you would just walk around with a trombone. I don't feel like everyone's on board with my plan to do that. But I did used to have a bit of stand-up years ago that was if you're single and you would, you want to be dating or whatever and you want more people to approach you, wear a hat. If I wear a hat, if I roll a hat down the street, a man will say, nice hat, for which I read, nice tits, which is something he can't say unless I'm wearing a hat. Now, I don't do that material anymore because problematic. # feminism. But But there's something in it. There's something about making yourself taller and kind of daring to wear a hat. Anything that takes up bigger space, like a wide-brimmed hat would be really good. Go down the street in a wide-brimmed hat. Again, I don't feel like everyone's on board with my wide-brimmed hat trombone plan. I really think you should be, guys. This isn't really stand-up. I really mean this. Get a hat and a trombone and just learn what it feels like to take up more space. A large teddy. That would do it, because then you're like two people getting on a bus and you're like, Teddy, have a seat. And then the man-spreading guy is like, oh, I've got to shift for the Teddy. He won't want to, but make him. Because his expectation is, like there's always more room for me. And that's just something he's learned from being in the world where people get out of his way. He's not a bad guy. We need to teach him that it's okay for sometimes him to budge up a little bit and for us to take up more space. Not all the time, like we could share the spreading situation. Sometimes I have a Teddy, sometimes you bring your legs. That's just how it's going to go from now on, sir, okay? Are you down with that? If I sat next to you with a Teddy, would you be interested in just making yourself a tiny bit smaller for me? I've solved man-spreading. Boom.
That makes a lot of sense. I love bringing like big suitcases on the tube.
Do you really? Yeah. Do you enjoy the feeling?
Yeah, because then I'm in the way, but it's not me. It's something else. It's like it's not my stomach, it's not my thighs. It's just this big ass. I mean, often I just bring one, even though I'm not going anywhere. just to take up more space. People.
Yeah, no, I absolutely hear that. And it's not that I'm saying women should take up all the space and men should take up no space. I just want... That is what she's saying. Yeah.
What was your challenge?
So my challenge was to walk down the street and first of all notice patterns of who gets out of whose way. Because I think this is something that happens. We make these decisions way before we hit each other. And the pattern I noticed was two women coming. Are you going to get out of mine or am I going to get out of yours? Often I would go right and the woman would go left and we'd get out of each other's ways. If I was coming up to another woman, sometimes if I decided to keep going, she would get out of my way. And if I was coming up to a man and I thought, I'm just going to keep going, he would not get out of my way, so I would have to curve at the last minute. All women seem to get out of the way for me. I'm 5'9.5", I have broad shoulders, and if I come at you, you're moving. Apparently. Not one woman didn't swerve well before I got to them. Most of the time, I would swerve quickly to avoid men because they would not get out of my way. So then I just thought, hey, what if I just keep walking? What if I don't get out of their way? What if I risk getting knocked to the ground by a really big guy? And I thought, I'm just going to do it. And at first I just couldn't. I would always quickly swerve. And then I thought, right, I'm doing it. I'm just doing it. I'm doing it. And I just steeled myself. And there was this huge guy, like he was built like the side of a barn, coming at me. And I just thought, not moving, not moving, not moving, not moving, not moving. And he came at me and we were just about to bang. And he went, you're not going to be able to see this at home, but he just went like that to get on the side. He had to really turn his whole body. And he put his arms up and he looked at me and went, what the fuck? And I was like, you haven't got out of anyone's way since you were 9. The first fucking person you've ever before. He just didn't know what to do with it. His wife laughed. But I was like, he was just like, what the fuck? You didn't get out of my way, because that's a unique experience for him. Whereas most of us will be like, half the time I get out of the way, half the time they get out of my way. Nobody doesn't swerve for this man. And I just did it. I was just like, go forward, just do it, do it, do it. Like I was in Platoon. And he did it. And I was so happy. I was really, really happy. And then I was able to do it. And then I just was coming at people and they were just diving into traffic. And sometimes when I did it, I felt bad. I wanted to go back and say, it's just a challenge for a podcast. I'm not rude. But that guy, I was super happy because I was like, he will think about me on his deathbed. Oh, he will. He wants to know who I am and why I didn't get out of his way. So I then started trying different things. Like, I found the most successful thing was starfish arms. That if you put your arms out to the side, like a cape behind me, people then got out of my way because I was wider, but they were so happy They were like, oh, you're a happy person. Because I was sort of like, almost like a child. Like, you know, I was just like, hey, it's the Fringe. I looked like that. I looked like, hey, it's the Fringe, like I was about to burst into song. I've been trying to take up less space my whole life because I was too tall and too broad. And today I found out what it would be like to enjoy taking up space. And actually, it can be pretty great.
It's fucking amazing, isn't it?
It's really great. And so what I'm going to do now is just, again, I'm very happy to get out of men's way half of the time. Because that's fair, right? That's fair. If I always make myself smaller, it does something to you psychologically. If you're always going, oh, sorry. And then you go into your big meeting to negotiate, what kind of person? You've just walked down the street going, sorry, I'll move, small, move. And then you go, oh, sure, yeah, no, I'd love to negotiate over this contract. So I'm getting out of men's way 50% of the time. I will get out of your way 100% of the time if you have small children, a pushchair, or you are old.
Can I elaborate on that? Because I feel like I may have said this on the podcast before, but it's really important. I spoke to my psychologist about that, and she said 2 things. She said, what you do is when you walk, focus on something far away and keep your eyes on it. They don't think you can see them, so they will get out of your way, and that makes it easier than if you corner them. I
absolutely agree, but what I discovered, one of my experiments, which I hadn't told you about, if I put headphones on and sunglasses, everyone gets out of your way because they think you can't see them, and that's not the same. It's not a status negotiation then. It's like, oh, I'll get out of the way for someone carrying a chest of drawers because they can't.
Same if you hold your phone.
Yeah, that's not the same. That big guy might have got out of my way if he'd thought I couldn't see him, because then he hasn't lost anything.
Oh, no, they don't, not necessarily.
Not necessarily, but he might have. He wouldn't have gone, what the fuck?
But as a tendency.
He might have gone, oh, she's rude, she's on her phone, or, you know. But he wouldn't have gone, he was so shocked. It was like I'd punched him. And if I had been, like, down like that, he would have just been like... So to me, it's kind of important that they see me coming. And they know I see them coming.
I base that on me having done that for, well, I don't know, since probably one of our episodes about... something similar. So I still do that. And I get out of the way when it's other women. I get out of the way when it's... I get out of the way of people who are in other ways underprivileged in some kind of way. Whatever. I don't know how to say. You know what I mean? People who deserve it.
Yeah.
What I'm trying to say is not... white men. Fuck them. But the most important thing that my psychologist said was, it's so dangerous. The feeling of being in the way, the feeling of being invisible is dangerous, because when you're a baby, if you feel like you're in the way, if you feel invisible when you're a baby, you knew instinctively that you were going to be dead because you needed people to see you and feed you and take care of you. So every time you feel a bit invisible or a bit in the way, like people aren't seeing you, it's so dangerous. And she turned her face, when I said to her, everyone keeps bumping into me when I walk in the street, I always feel like I'm invisible. Like her face turned white. She was like, that's not good. You need to start. And she was the one who told me to just fucking start barging into people, because it's so important to feel like you're being seen. It's an important thing you
need not to feel like you're somehow Bruce Willis in Sixth Sense. That's key. It's key that you don't feel like a ghost. That's key. It's key to your mental health that you feel like not a fictitious character, not somebody's imaginary friend. That's key to everybody's mental health.
That makes that movie so unrealistic. In real life, if a white man was suddenly invisible, he'd be like, no one's looking at me.
Oh, that's true, actually.
Bruce Willis was just like, yeah, sure, like it would never happen. Or maybe women even get out of the way of white male ghosts. Maybe that's just so deep within us. We're like, oh, I just felt like moving to the side. Why did I just move to the side? I felt like a wind of entitlement just moved past me.
I just bunched up on this train and there's nobody there, but I feel like my leg is getting pressed into the window. I'll move my shopping. I saw this woman's show at this Fringe. I just killed myself laughing for an hour. She's absolutely incredible. Please put your hands together, stamp your feet, and make general woohooing noises for the wonderful Desiree Burch.
Oh my God, thank you for making that last until I got all the way to the stage. I really appreciate that. It's rough. It was a long walk for me. So I'm also not from here, as you guys can tell. British people are always so nice to me. They're like, are you Canadian? I'm like, no, I'm fat, loud, and opinionated. You know where I'm from. Let's not fuck around here. And it's funny because I definitely relate to all the stuff that we've been talking about. Now, I've moved to London. Do you guys get down to London? Anybody from London? Anybody? Is somebody? Okay. Can I ask you guys, are the rudest people on planet Earth walking the streets of London right now? Is that the way that shit works? Because, I lived in New York for 15 years. I've never experienced the same rudeness that I experience in London on a regular basis. So here's what happens to me when I walk down the street. I'll be walking down the street being fairly fucking noticeable, as you guys can tell. And then there will always be some woman on the same plane as me, right? And she normally looks like this in comparison to me. I don't know if you can tell we're both black. I know it's hard to figure it out. But I'm the fat one, right? And so, here's what always happens. We do the dance, right? I move to the left, she moves to the left, and we keep going about our way, right? But what always happens to me is I move to the left and she moves not at all and does the right into me like I was gonna combust in a 20 stone worth of glitter for her so she could just keep strutting down the catwalk in her mind, It's always like one of these skinny bitches with the legs that don't touch. I know I can't say bitch, but I'm saying bitch. I feel like she's getting emotionally punched in the tit when I say bitch right now. Sorry. But it is, the legs that don't ever touch. She could do eagle pose and there's still light shining at you from between her legs. Sam Beckett is quantum leaping in the light between this chick's legs. There's so much of it. And she does that, and I don't know about, because I know this happens to other women, and I get, all critical race and feminist theory as soon as it happens, I'm like, am I invisible? Does she think she's more important than me? Does she think she's prettier than me or better than me? And it's why am I losing my mind? She's the idiot who doesn't know how to not move through solid objects, right? So I figured out what to do, all right? You're not gonna like it, but it's going to work. It works for women, okay? I'm telling you. So when that woman tries to walk into you as though you do not exist, right? Just whisper a little bit louder than you should, "Fat bitch," as she passes. Oh my God, it so works, okay? Seriously, right? It's perfect. Think about it, right? Because either one of two things is gonna happen. Either one, she's gonna immediately whirl around and go, "Excuse me, did you just call me a fat bitch? You're the fat bitch, fat bitch." And as soon as she calls you a fat bitch, you're allowed to kill her. Right? That'll hold up in a court of law, right? Bystanders will be there well, she should not have called the fat bitch a fat bitch, first of all, right? That'll totally work. Or two, she's gonna go home and cut herself. Either way, feminism wins. No. No, I know. It's not cool to fat shame, all right? But, I just know how this game works, okay? I've been fat my entire life. I'm not one of these neo-fats who just let herself go in college, all right? I've been doing this shit my entire life, okay? I'm gonna go over here and sit down and try to make it up to Deborah, but I'm just gonna, because you were talking about before with the man spreading, right? And, I'm amazed that happens in London, because you guys have the, chairs that do this thing on the side, right? So it's hard to do it, because, in New York, there's nothing. So guys just go for it, just get into it, And I'm always looking at them God, can I just ask, there are men here, how much room do you guys need for your balls? Is it this much, or is it this? Do we need to develop some special yoga so you guys can sit there and fan your balls and read the Sunday Morning Times? You've seen a man fan his balls before, right? He's just man, all this ball entitlement to all this ball real estate he's got to take up, You've never once in your life seen a woman sit down on a park bench yep, just gonna clip some coupons today. God. Anybody else hot? I'm hot, All right, I'm gonna go sit down. You guys are lovely, thank you.
We're going to get so many emails. Oh my God. I am going to be writing emails for a week.
Forward them.
I will.
Oh, thank you for doing that.
Yeah, because see, I love the thing you're saying, but my big issue is not the men, because the men see I'm big, and I body checked a man before. This great thing happened the last time I was in New York. I was getting on the train in Harlem, and the train doors are there, and this guy's standing right at the center of them, and they pause for a second, they don't open. I'm looking at the guy I've got to get off the train. He's trying to get on the train. Obviously, there's an order of operations here. I clear, he gets on. But he's just standing right in the middle, and I was oh, I see, this fucking motherfucker wants wants to play. Do you know what I mean? Like I am 20 stone a fucking woman. Like, you are going to respect me. And like, so, you know, like the doors open and he walked in and I was like, nope. Right? Like, he just got filtered to the side like I was a street cleaner. Like, he just got like, boom, boom, like all on the side. And I was like, okay. I felt good for days after that. Like, days. I'm just saying, it is so worth it. But yeah, my problem is other women who, like, I can tell, like, go like, oh, I have the right of way. Like, in society, in the world, like, I have the right of way. And I'm just kind of like, you know, sometimes it really gets to me. And so I just use physical violence. Sorry.
No. This is I'm learning a lot.
The opinions by the podcast. These are Desiree Burch's personal opinions.
Yes. These do not represent Guilty Feminists. I'm clearly one, but just of a different ilk. This is don't. Email me directly.
Yeah. These are unique and exciting views. So, when did you learn to take up space?
I think it probably started to happen once I was living in New York City because I had always, you know, I'd grown up in the suburbs, you know, and like, you know, like I grew up in Southern California, so I was always trying to be smaller and like invisible nearly because like everything there is about being like mall ready, you know, like blonde highlights and like all of that sort of Hollywood look. And I was just like, this is kind of terrible. And I, you know, moved away from there. And I think once I was in a city where I kind of not only saw, you know, a diversity of different kinds of people and learned to respect myself and acknowledge myself a little bit more, but physically had to take up space in order not to get enveloped and swallowed by a huge city every day. Like, it really helped me to just kind of be like, you know, spread out more, you know, like move with purpose, you know, that kind of thing. You know, and also being a performer helps too, because like you get an entire space to yourself where people are just like forced to go like, this is important because like you've raised yourself 4 feet off the floor in front of them. Like, this is suddenly important now. Okay, great, you know. So yeah, that's helped too.
It's true. I was also raised in not California, but I was raised in an Australian beach town where the currency for women was to be as small as possible. And the girls that were fanciable were like petite, blonde, very tanned, small breasts, like small everything, just tiny. That was what you wanted to be. And I just thought, I'm never going to be small enough. And I said on a previous podcast in this small beach town, like, no boys ever fancied me at school. And then I got a message late one night on Facebook, you were wrong. And I was like, what? And some school friend found me on Facebook and was like, you said no boys fancied you at school. And I was like, yeah. And he said, you were wrong. And I said, who fancied me? He said, I did. Aww. I know. So I got some fan mail in the middle of the night. So
that's not fan mail.
That sounds like a stalker email, to be honest.
No, he's going to be listening to this.
Why are you ruining
All right, Sara, you're a perfectly normal person.
It was perfectly nice.
In the middle of the night, just like...
Oh, but it's Australian
over
there.
So it was in the...
Yeah. No, it was sweet. It was sweet.
Okay.
We're both married, so it was really sweet. He was just like, I just wanted you to know that wasn't really the case. Like, you didn't see me there. And then he told me a story about...
You didn't see him?
Yeah.
You bitch. No, sorry.
No, he said one time he came over to talk to me to ask me out, and then I laughed at him. And made him feel bad.
What?
I don't go. No, I wasn't. He certainly didn't ask me out. I don't remember this happening at all. Actually, we both remember the incident in a different way. Anyway, the point of the matter is, I'm going to say more stuff like this because I want more of those messages. Nobody liked me. Nobody likes me now. I'm so super unsexy.
Do you think that you laughed at him just knowing yourself? Like, do you think that you go like, ha, scoff, never you? Or do you think that you laughed at him because you didn't think anyone could possibly fancy you and you thought he was joking?
No, he didn't say anything. I would never in a million years have... He didn't ask me out. And he didn't say he did ask me out. But if you're listening, that was very sweet of you. So I learned to take up space much later. I've just basically always wanted to take up less space my whole life. And I'm sort of now quite enjoying my height and it's like you say on stage, it really is amazing to take up space. And doesn't matter how big or small your body is on stage, just pulling yourself up to your full height, coming towards the audience. It's the greatest experience.
But I I mean, I love being on stage. It's the best thing in the whole world, but that was never why I did it, and it was never the best part of it for me. It was like, being on stage was like the worst bit about being a comedian. Because I'm introverted, I'm socially anxious, I don't like being the center of attention. The first 2 years I did stand-up, I had this constant feeling of looking behind me, because I didn't understand, like it didn't make sense in my head that people were looking at me, so I kept feeling like something must be happening behind me. So that was something I had to get used to. And now I like it because I like saying the words that I prepared, but I don't, if you took away my microphone, I would like go completely angst on the whole situation. I like taking up space, like in theory. Like when I walk down the street and I'm gonna try and, not move for anyone, I have to think of it as a feminist action. I can't be me, just me as a person. I have to be, this is feminism, because I know.
So you have to barge into men for all women.
Yeah, it has to be a woman issue. It has to be
for more than just you.
It can't be a Sofie Hagen issue.
It's not me just serving the space. It's, I know that this man won't move out of the way because patriarchy, and that's the only reason why. Because if that wasn't a thing, I would move for everyone.
So it's like a video game of patriarchy versus feminism trying to get through for you.
Yes.
It's like, yeah.
Yeah.
That's so interesting.
So I don't like being center of attention. I don't like being amongst people. And which is why I make myself smaller, and that's why people, bump into me in the street, because I just make myself non-existent.
What do you think about like hen nights? I feel like when women are together, they can take up space. I feel like when women are in an army, they take up so much space.
Especially a hen night. It's like far too much probably for society sometimes on hen nights. But I think also, probably because they're focused on each other and themselves and no one else, So part of that taking up space is not thinking of yourself from an outside gaze and how you're being looked at or perceived or valued or appreciated. Because, on a hen night, you're out there drinking. It's about your friend. It's about wearing like the biggest, dick crown on your head. It's an internal thing. So like if you're thinking about like, we're having a good time in this general hive here, you'll take up a lot of space without worrying what anybody else thinks of you.
Like they play these games. Have you ever been on a hen night where they...
God, no.
Yeah.
Fuck.
It's also
I've
true,
lost
yeah.
friends because they invited me to hen nights. Like, fuck no, we're not seeing each other anymore.
You dumped a friend because you were like, we can't be friends.
We're not the same type of people.
Say I got married again and I invited you on my hen night.
No.
Okay.
It's over.
What if I was
Everything's
like,
over.
it meant a lot to me for you to come?
Don't care.
Right, okay.
No matter how much it meant to you, it would not top the anxiety I would feel about having to do that.
Yeah, no.
Whenever I do a comedy club and I see, the dick hats. I mean, I would love to wear a dick hat in private. I mean, that's not what I'm saying. Everyone loves a dick crown, but it's the loudness and it's the hype and it's like, I was the annoying kid on the bus because we would take the bus from like our pre-party at school, then we would go to the school where the actual party was, and it would always be like this loud, like all these kids on the bus at like 9 p.m. and I would be the one going, guys, shh, guys, there's other people on the bus, guys. Even though I was so wasted myself, I'd be like, hey, I'm wasted and I still have empathy for these people, so let's all just reel back a bit.
You can't be at 1/10 of a hen night. That's just not going to happen.
God, no. So stay with Tom.
Yes.
Don't get married again.
Okay, what if Tom left me and then I married John Hamm?
Stay with Deborah.
I honestly think sometimes women form a small army to make a noise in the world, to make themselves bigger, because they're protected by the other people. Because if one woman behaved like that, one woman on a tube in a penis hat, you can't do it. It's unsafe. Because you're asking for... You're not asking for it. Oh, God, I've just said you're asking for it. Oh, my God. I'm so sorry.
But there are going to be people who will be, you drunk whatever, so-and-so, like you need to...
Yeah, and I did not mean you're asking for it. Please edit this out of the podcast, Tom. Didn't mean like that. But
I've infected you guys with non-feminism.
No. Oh, God.
I want to do that. I want to go on the tube in London at like 8 a.m. with a penis hat. Just read like Virginia Woolf. Go, what?
If she dared you to do that on a hen do, you wouldn't do it.
Oh, yeah, no.
This is This is a challenge for you. This is a podcast challenge. One woman, 8 a.m. hen morning. Just on your own. You just go on. You're just drinking.
If anyone looks at me, I've got to go, I'm getting married.
Yeah, you're just drinking a Bacardi through a penis straw. 8 a.m., rush hour, reading Virginia Woolf.
Reading on my Kindle.
Penis hat. Yeah.
Love him.
Yeah.
Proposed on New Year's Eve.
A Gloria Steinem t-shirt. And, yeah. I'm just suggesting, what if you did that? Just you alone in a stretch limousine. Does anyone have any questions about taking up space? Oh, okay.
Well, that was...
Yeah.
Someone took up space with the question about taking up space. I like that. That's good.
Hiya, I wanted to ask about taking up space in conversation rather than physically, because I find that to be more of a pernicious problem. What do you guys reckon?
I don't know. I have a loud, sonorous voice, so, I'm benefited a little bit by genetics in order to be able to do that kind of thing. But even still, I do find that even in conversations with my best friend, who is a male, that I'm often sort of interrupted. And I used to be more of an interrupter. I used to be like, I need to fight for this. And now I'm just kind of like, I'll wait for the children to finish, and then I'll continue saying what I was going to say, because I feel like it has enough, merit, gravitas, whatever, to do that. I have noticed sometimes that I don't breathe nearly as much as I should, because I have this secret fear that if I stop speaking, I am going to be, cut off. And so even on stage in life, it's just like, I've just learned to keep running out my voice until there's nothing left, because I'm afraid that someone's going to cut in, because I'm like, I've got the floor.
There are extensive studies that say women talking together talk more than men talking together. But if there's one man, the studies show men speak 75% of the time, but women are perceived to speak more than half the time. So if you ask the men, they'll be like, yeah, she spoke for more than half the conversation, even though she spoke for 25% of the conversation. And this is very, very, very well documented.
And at the same time, which that reminded me of, as you said, women speak a lot faster than men, because we do have that fear of being interrupted. We're like, okay, gotta get everything out now, because we're gonna, there we went. And then men speak slowly. And if men and women speak in the same pace, the same volume, exactly the same way, women will be perceived to be speaking slower than the man is, because we're used to women talking so quickly, because we have to, that they're like, oh, get on with it now. And then they'll be like, well...
It takes status to speak slowly. It takes status. I had a really funny, ironic thing happen the other day where two guys were saying that they're writing scripts and they are scared to write female characters, and they tend to write them really blandly, because they said otherwise... people get offended, and like, I'm worried I'm making them, I'm slut-shaming, or I'm making them too like this or too like that. So I tend to write them really blandly. And I was like, well, what I do is, if I'm writing and representing another group, is I consult people from that group. So if I wasn't sure, say I was writing for a person of colour and I wasn't sure that I had it accurately, I would give it to 3 or 4 people of colour, and I would get a consensus around whether that was representative. It's not going to be representative of every person's experience, but if they feel it's way out, I'll change it. I'm writing a script about disability at the moment, and definitely consulting with those people. That's what I tried to say. What I in fact said was, well, I find one thing that's been useful. I'm writing a script about... I've got a commission for from the BBC... Yeah, I gotta go now. Yeah. That's what I said, because he was going, I just don't know how to write for women, because, it's so problematic, because it's just like they complain all the time, because you get it wrong. You have a woman in front of you who's trying to explain an idea, and you won't listen, and it was so annoying. And eventually I did kind of get it out, and he said, I don't think I need to consult women, I just, it's my imagination, I need to be creative. And I was like, why don't I just, punch myself repeatedly in the face instead of that idea? We had another question in the second row. Yes?
I work in a male-dominated industry, so I'm invisible most of the time. And I try and make myself more visible and take up more space, but often I'm then kind of shouted down because they don't like you being visible, and it's just...
So just the question, because we didn't have a mic there, was I work in a male-dominated industry. I often try and make myself more visible, but then they get annoyed that I am visible and they shout me down. What do I do? So
I find they will do that. And I think if anyone else is kind of new into this whole trying to take up more space and speak louder and do all the things that we're basically talking about in the podcast, we'll find that they'll get angry. People get angry because it's not just if you had to come into that workplace and from the get-go you'd been shouty and loud and just taking up all the space, they wouldn't have been as angry with you as when you suddenly start changing, because they don't feel like you're taking up more space. They feel like you're taking their space from them. I mean, I know it in terms of starting to say no, because that was the thing I went through with my therapist, was I had to start saying no to doing people's homework, even though I was really good at it. She was like, you don't have the time, and why would you? It was a good point. And she said, when you suddenly start saying no, people feel like you're taking something from them, and they will be furious with you for a while, and then they'll get used to it, and then it'll be fine. I don't know if it's the same thing in terms of taking up space as a woman. That was what that made me think of.
If somebody's losing privilege, then it feels like something's being robbed from them. Like, I've always had it. I assume I will always have it. There's fear, I think, when any minority group start to take ground. And the only frustrating thing is women are not a minority. We are a majority. But we're constantly told we're a minority.
Well, I mean, then again, most ethnic minority groups aren't a minority either,
I know, so
ultimately,
true.
right?
America, yeah, it's true. But do you know what I mean?
Yeah, well,
like,
absolutely.
It's bizarre.
Absolutely.
It's absolutely bizarre the way that we continue to act like a minority, and we continue to go, oh, sure. So I think probably Sophie's right. You just need to continue to make yourself visible until they're used to it.
Agreed. Persist in what you're doing. And also, most people respond to you because of something about them. So always looking at, like, what is this saying about them will probably help you to kind of diffuse whatever, bomb they've sort of created to, detonate for you.
Desiree, where can people find you?
If you want to find me on the internet, I am at Desiree at all the social media, at least the grown-up social media. I don't know what a Snapchat is, I'm sorry. I'll figure it out one day. DesireeBurch.com. Sorry about that. I forgot I have a website because it's, the future currently now.
Sofie Hagen, do you have anything to plug?
Yeah, I've started... we spoke a lot about this today, about being a bit socially anxious and weird. I've started my own little podcast called Made of Human, which is where I talk to people who are also a bit introverted or have some kind of difficulties with being human. And we talk about how we cope in the world and how we feel like we become people. And I'm on Twitter at Sofie Hagen. Deborah?
I have some shows here at the Fringe I would like you to see. So I'm doing Global Pillage, which is a diversity-based comedy panel show. It's two teams of comedians versus the hive mind of the audience, which is you, so you can shout out if you know the answer to the question. You do not have to shout out, but you can. You can also listen to it on globalpillage.net, and you can listen to this show on guiltyfeminist.com.
Help us in giving a big round of applause for Desiree Burch. You have been listening to The Guilty Feminist with me, Sofie Hagen, Deborah Frances-White, and our special guest, Desiree Burch. The recording engineer was Gary Boyle. Music was by Mark Hutch. The producer was Sam Stilinski plus Martin Edishan. Thanks to everyone at the Gilded Balloon and Butler and everyone at Soul TV, as well as all the people listening. For more information about this and other episodes, visit guiltyfeminist.com.
Okay, Sophie, are you ready?
Yep.
Here we go.
Live from the Gilded Balloon.
At this stage of the Fringe, day 498 of the Fringe, the Gilded Balloon.
It's your fucking handwriting, Tom. Gilded Balloon.
Was that my handwriting?
It's typed, so that part is typed. It's typed in enormous, great big fuck off font.
Gilded Balloon.
All right, ready?
So sorry. Not sorry.